What's up, everybody? Welcome to Philly with John Marks on PHLY, as always, sponsored by Central City Toyota and Bet Parks. We're live on a Monday morning, Monday, St. Patty's Day. That's right. I'm dressed in green. You may not realize it because I often wear Eagles colors, but I do have this. I don't have any St. Patrick's Day gear. I didn't have any hats or anything like that. And when I was looking for it last night, I'm like, I don't have anything. I had the same Eagles sweatshirt that I always wear. But I wore it because it is St. Patrick's Day. Tyler Zulli returns from the paternity list, and he's all decked out in green today. Nothing but green underwear, green tongue. He dyed his face green. His hair is green. Very festive for the moment today. So happy St. Patrick's Day. And that will be the extent of the coverage today. No, later on in the show, because when you're a parent, or excuse me, when you have young kids, the leprechaun now visits houses on St. Patrick's Eve. Wasn't a thing when I was a child, but yes, the leprechaun now visited our house last night. So I'll give you an update coming up on that. Shout out to everybody that's watching live on YouTube right now on a Monday morning. Of course, you can watch whenever. You're just clicking the link. That's it. Click the link. You can watch whenever. We're live 8 to 9 every single morning. All right. So put up that comment there with Flynn, because this is where we're going to start. Flynn Patterson right now. This is one of the reasons you do this is if you watch live on YouTube, you can be one of our mad chatters that comment on what they're thinking right now, right? He says, don't be sad because it's over. Be happy big ticket happened and worked out well for us. Good luck to him in LA. So that's really what I want to start off with is I guess the big news of the weekend was in the Sunday morning with Mekhi Becton signing with the Los Angeles Chargers. I was surprised at the contract, not overly surprised just because he hadn't signed and free agency had already very much been there. The big contracts went right away. So now it's the weekend. So it's like, all right, he obviously isn't getting the value that he wants. But a 2-year, $20 million contract for Mekhi Becton, which is really most likely a 1-year contract with like $12 to $15 million guaranteed. And all that means is that if he's a flop or doesn't perform up to expectations in year one, the Chargers probably get rid of him or whatever after that first contract. So to me, this is really a 1-year contract. So the question would be, well, why didn't the Eagles match? I saw a lot of this on social media yesterday. Well, what are they doing? What the hell's Howie doing? More questioning of Howie Roseman in the Eagles organization. Why wouldn't the Eagles have matched the contract and re-signed Mekhi Becton? People thought he was going to take a hometown discount to come back. I heard a lot of that. Oh, he'll take less to come here. Well, a 1-year contract with not a lot of guaranteed money, you know what that says? It says that the league didn't value Mekhi Becton. A 1-year contract for double-digit million is a good contract for him, but nobody's buying into the belief right now that Becton can go to a team and be one of these linchpins in the offensive line, which is really what you're looking for if you're giving a guy $40 million guaranteed or you're giving him $15 to $20 million a year. I think the Chargers are betting on that 1 year, and they're saying, you know what? We'll give you another year, and then if he's really good, then they'll extend him past that. Teams will pay for any position, but they'll pay for offensive line for sure. Nobody was willing to do that. So what does that tell you? The league didn't value Becton, right? They looked at him and they said, okay, all right, we'll give you a 1-year contract. There wasn't a team out there that was willing to give him a 3-year, $30 million contract, 2 years, $20 million. We'll see when the contract details come out. But the fact the details aren't out now doesn't bode well for the player getting 15 to 20 million. Like that contract's not guaranteed. So it's clear that the Eagles, Becton had a good year. They won a Super Bowl. It was a great story. We'll remember him crying on the field with his child, the confetti dropping down, him watching everything. We'll remember that. But isn't it pretty clear that the Eagles wanted Becton back? They not only could have had him back, but they could have had him back at a very, very manageable number. They didn't value him. They looked at that right guard position and they said, you know what? We have Tyler Steen, and they just made a trade I don't even remember his name from muscle memory. Kenyon Green last week, the CJGJ trade, former first-round draft pick. It's going to be Steen or Green. Last year, it was going to be Steen or Becton. They signed Becton as insurance. He won the job. This year, it's going to be Steen or it's going to be Green. And there's a reason why they traded for him. That's just not, oh, yeah, we'll take a fifth-round pick. Oh, well, who can you throw in? Who's the player to be named later? No, he's a former first-round draft pick that obviously Jeff Stoutland looked at during the draft and probably liked him if they acquired him. He's a big monster that isn't making $10 million a year. He's making money on a rookie contract. First-round pick, but still not a ton of money. And he's big and he's physical. He fits what the Eagles want to do. He's 6'4", 330. If 330 is really accurate, maybe he's 360. And he's athletic, and he's a road grader in the run game. And Mekhi Becton's probably looked at it as a pass blocker, and the league's like, yeah, well, look what he did in Philly. Look at the offensive linemen around him. We're not sold on him. So the Eagles, I'm sure they will say good things about Becton. They realize, and what we're realizing here with the Eagles is they need to find savings where they can find savings. Rick Lovato, 2 Super Bowls as a long snapper. Looks like he's going to be gone. Like when they're able to make money in the margins or save money in the margins, they're doing it. They're trying to improve the team in different ways. Instead of overpaying Britton Covey, they give some money to a new returner in bringing in somebody. So like that's kind of where everything is right now. The Eagles are never going to bring back Becton. Sure, if he would have had a $4 million price tag or something, sure, they would have. But they made that trade with CJGJ. Once they made that trade, there was no chance Becton was coming back at any price. Because now they have 2 guys that are going to be competing for the spot. And I'm not telling you that I don't like Tyler Steen or he can't be good or yada, 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 yada. Kenyon Green, if he's not the starter, man, he really sucks. Because they made that trade for him to come in there and to be the starter. Absolutely, they did. First-round draft pick, that kind of talent, that kind of size, that kind of athleticism. If Stoutland can't get enough out of him, a lot like Becton, then Steen's probably going to have the job. But let's face it, they didn't like, and this isn't in a negative way. I'm not trying to say this in a negative way. The Eagles were not bringing Mekhi Becton back. They didn't value him. The league didn't value him. They could have easily brought him back if they wanted to bring Becton back, and they elected not to. And I'm absolutely positively fine with it. I am. This is where you need to save money. The Eagles pay everybody. You can't pay a player like your right guard. You just had him for $1.5 million. That's where you want him. He was a good player for you. Let him walk. Let somebody else play the big money. Now you're bringing the next guy. That right guard is going to need to be the rotating position on the line where guys aren't making a lot of money. This portion of the show brought to you by GLAT Hair Restoration. GLATHairMM.com, 610-980-4000. Yeah, like, all right, will Becton go out to the Chargers and be a great player? I hope he is. I hope he gets a big contract afterwards. We've seen in recent years guys that I've never even heard of them that got signed for $15 to $20 million a year. I watch a lot of NFL football. Interior linemen that were free agents and teams needed offensive line. They said, yep, we're going to sign that guy. He's pretty good. Teams look at tape. They look at everything. No one wanted to give Mekhi Becton any kind of money outside of that 1 year, it looks like. So good luck to him. As we welcome back Tyler Zulli, he's frantically trying to get the paint off his face, the green paint off his face. He's done it. Yeah. He returns from the paternity list on St. Patrick's Day. Hi, Tyler.
No, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I'll be honest with you. I didn't even think about it. I woke up this morning and I'm like, yeah, it's Monday. And I totally forgot. I'm not even going to lie.
Listen. If I wanted to have this like, hey, we're going to do a St. Patty's show, then I would have had to communicate to you, hey,
sure,
let's do a St. Patty's show.
Sure.
Which we do an hour, man. We don't have to fill 3 hours.
No, we don't. This isn't radio anymore.
We don't like. I don't have the energy for it at this point. Maybe in future years.
Totally
we'll have
understood.
A live broadcast and people will be doing car bombs. Because by the way, believe it or not, I am an Irish car bomb. You think you can beat me in drinking Irish car bombs? Bring it. Good luck. I used to make money. My buddy that used to own the Drake Tavern, people would go up there and they'd be throwing 20s on me, and I'd just be like, pfft. I have a few skills in life. One of them is chugging beer, and therefore chugging Irish car bombs. I can chug beer.
So good to know. So if I ever need, if I ever get in a drinking game contest, I'm calling John Marks, is what you're saying.
Jason Kelsey and James Seltzer had this beer chugging contest, and James is a good chugger. I've beaten him. I don't think he's ever beaten me. The problem with that contest was James thought he was drinking out of a regular pint glass, and they come up like with this bowl that was so wide, and it caught him by surprise. He didn't know how to drink it. It's a lot different. In the pint glass, you just pretty much like gulp, gulp. You're just inhaling air. Boom, the beer's gone. Same thing with car bombs. If you give me a fish bowl, I wouldn't be able to beat somebody with it.
That's fair.
So anyway, yeah. So let's go hustle some people.
Okay, that sounds good. You're going to carry the weight. You're the team. I'll be the best. I'll be the best supporter that I possibly could be. John, I'll be honest with you. I'm more surprised at the contract and the numbers for Becton than I am that Becton's not back. I think you and I both were in lockstep that it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. I know a lot of people said, like, well, if the money is $8 or $9 or $10 million, is there a plausibility that he's back? Yeah, sure. But especially, like you mentioned, especially as soon as they made the trade to acquire Kenyon Green, who's on the final year of his rookie deal, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Becton would not be back. I am a little shocked that the league maybe isn't overvaluing Becton, because we've seen one-year guys, and I'm not saying that Becton's a one-year guy. Maybe he's a really good interior guard for another 6, 7, 8 years. But right now, it's a one-year track record of success. We've seen those type of guys get big deals and big paydays. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. I am a little surprised. Maybe it's because he is an interior offensive lineman now instead of a tackle, but I am a little bit surprised that it's only 2 for $20. And really, it could end up being one of those deals, like you said, where it's 2 for $20, but it's 12 in the first year and 8 in the second, or something along those lines, that make it a little bit more easy to get out if you don't feel comfortable with it.
They take a cap hit next year if they release him. Like, honestly, what I think it is, the league wants to see one more year before they're buying it. And obviously, when they study what he did, they're not so sure of that on a line that doesn't have future Hall of Famers and great players and things like that on it. So,
well, and the Chargers have invested in their offensive line over the last couple of years. They drafted Joe Alt really high. They drafted Rashawn Slater really high. And they needed interior line help, though. You saw in the playoff game against the Texans, the Texans just said, "We're bringing heat." Right. And we're just coming in waves. Right. We're going to bring 5 and 6 and we're just going to blitz and blitz and blitz. And the interior, Justin Herbert didn't stand a chance on the interior. And so I think they're looking at it and going, we've got our 2 young guys. Let's bring in a vet, somebody with size and somebody who can help in the run game, because we know that Harbaugh loves to run the football and play that type of offense. That, to me, I think is like let's see what we can do here. I think knowing what we know, what Becton did in the run game for the Eagles, again, maybe different paired next to Lane Johnson on one side and Cam Jurgens on the other.
Right.
But I am surprised that the investment seems like it's a pretty low one.
I'm surprised, and I think it's a really good signing for the Chargers. There's upside to it. But no one else was willing to do that. So, and put up, Matt has a comment right here on our live chat, which I disagree with, but I understand what he's saying. And he says that he doesn't think they brought Green in to start, just another lottery ticket, similar to Becton last year. If he beats out Steen, that's fine, but it's Steen's job to lose. I mean, I somewhat agree with you. It's an open competition. They're bringing in a guy. Let's face it. There's a reason why one player was taken top 15 and another player is a mid-round draft pick. All else being equal, they want Green to win the job because they see the upside. And the upside is Pro Bowl type player. Now, will that happen? I don't know. He hasn't been a great player in the NFL. He's one of the worst graded guards in the league. Now, PFF, I don't know if that's true, and I don't really care. But believe me, they're bringing him in because they see the type of athlete that he is. And if Steen wins the job, great. But they brought him in more than just to be, all right, well, like he's a guy and can be a backup, whatever. That's not why you make that trade with CJGJ. To me, that's Stoutland saying, I like him. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Last year with Becton, there was no expectation at all. I remember saying like, oh yeah, Becton, he'll come in and compete. And then he won the job and never looked back. So that could be Green. Or if Green doesn't have it, it'll be Steen. Or somebody else. The Eagles are impacting the NFL. By the way, Bob Cooney is going to be along in 10 minutes. Our buddy Bob on St. Patrick's Day. He's drinking green beer with Bob, coming up less than 10 minutes. The Eagles are impacting the NFL. If you didn't hear, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both re-signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. A lot of guaranteed money. He's the highest paid. Jamar Chase is the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. They signed T. Higgins as well. If you remember, this was before the Super Bowl, I believe. Was it the lead up to the Super Bowl? Do we have this now, Tyler? Joe Burrow goes on with Pardon My Take. And here's how that sounded.
You understand the cap?
I mean, not really, kind of.
Because we don't think that it exists.
Way more than we do.
Yeah.
Well, definitely some teams seem to make it feel that way.
Yeah, I mean, the Saints have just pretended it doesn't exist for a
Yeah,
while.
and the Eagles are paying everybody.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that seems like the way, whatever they're doing.
Isn't it so awesome to hear everybody talking about our team? Let me pinch myself. This is not the Eagles that I grew up with that had the cheapest owner in the world and didn't want to keep Reggie White. The Eagles pay everybody. So look what's happened. Now across the National Football League, everybody is seeing that you can manipulate the cap and pretty much sign whoever you want to. All these teams that are crying cap poor and, oh my God, we killed Jerry Jones. I can't afford Derrick Henry. We can't afford this guy. No, you can. If you're smart, if you pay players early, if you manage and manipulate the cap, if you put up big money in signing bonuses early, right? You're welcome, Cincinnati Bengals fans. You're welcome, Cincinnati Bengals fans. Because Joe Burrow right there, and that wasn't the only time he said it. During his media tour, he talked about that a lot. He was sending a message to the Bengals. Like, hey, the Eagles are paying everybody. The cap isn't real. If they're able to pay everybody, what are we doing? What do you know? A team like the Bengals, who would never do anything like this, just signed 2 wide receivers to top contracts. The Eagles are impacting the NFL. And now owners are going to need to spend money like this because their star players are going to say, what the hell are we doing? What do you mean we can't sign these guys? What do you mean we can't afford Derrick Henry? I don't think it would have affected the Cowboys last year. Jerry Jones legitimately said they couldn't afford Derrick Henry, and he gave Ezekiel Elliott a $3 million contract. Derrick Henry got $9 million guaranteed. You can afford anybody that you want to. You just kick the can down the road. The Eagles have impacted the NFL and the way that the NFL, they're going to make decisions, owners, GMs, and now you're going to see pressure from the star players because they're going to say, the Eagles are paying everybody. And the media's caught on as well. This has all happened since the run to the Super Bowl. Everybody's eyes are open. Down in Dallas, Jeff Kavanaugh on our sister station down there is like, hang on, the Eagles pay everybody. What do you mean, Jerry? Right? Like the media has taken notice that the Eagles are somehow able to pay everybody. Coming up, Bob Cooney drinking, binging green beer this morning on St. Patrick's Day. What does Bob think of everything so far with the Eagles? Was letting Becton walk, because clearly he could have been back on a one-year contract or a 2-year contract. Is it a mistake not re-signing Mekhi Becton? Everything else that went on in free agency and the Sixers and everything else is coming up with Bob Cooney right after this. Philly. John Marks, don't go anywhere. All right, listen, don't go anywhere because we have two big events. I don't even know if Tyler's aware of the second big event. The second big event at Parks Casino this Saturday, coming up on the 22nd, all right, is Lee Brice. He's a country superstar. I know he's a country superstar because it says it. I've never heard of him, but apparently he is a big country guy. I know Tyler, I don't think he's a country guy, but he's coming up Saturday night, and tickets are going fast for that. But at 1 p.m. on Saturday, Philly with John Marks making his first live show at Parks Casino, 1 to 3 p.m. I don't even know if Tyler's going to be there. I don't know if anybody's going to be there. I don't know if I'm going to be talking to myself for 2 hours, but you should be there. 1 p.m. this Saturday, less than a week away, Parks Casino, Pennsylvania's #1 casino, the only casino I would even consider. And we talked about the Excite Center. That's where Lee Brice is coming on Saturday night. Larry the Cable Guy, May 16th. Comedian Trevor Wallace, June 27th. Comedian Mark Norman, July 12th. And you don't even need to dine at Parks Casino when you're seeing a show or you're gambling. The options are amazing. Parks Grill Steakhouse, high-end steakhouse, amazing food, Liberty Bell Gastropub and Beer Garden, or Bamboo Noodle House, dinner and drinks, and do it before the show, right? ParksCasino.com to buy tickets for all shows. Parks Casino, this is how you win. You must be 21. Gambling problem. Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Ace is the place for pathetic dudes like me that can't fix anything, that can't do much of anything, right? Because if something goes wrong in your home, like my home, if my wife can't fix it or I YouTube it and I can't fix it, what am I going to do, right? Well, here's what you do. AceHardwareHomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Ace Hardware Home Services, the power of the Ace brand, striving to be the best, most trusted provider of home preservation services. So we're talking about residential maintenance, installation, home repair services. That includes plumbing, heating, cooling, and electrical. Free estimates on equipment installation and replacement with trusted advisors and options that are best suited for your home and budget. Emergency services available for when you need them the most. Service you can trust. Satisfaction's guaranteed. They're going to make it right no matter what. Visit Ace Hardware Home Services online. AceHardwareHomeservices.com to get started on your next project. Hooah! We are back. Bob Cooney coming up in a second. I would advise everybody right now, you talk about great coverage for the Eagles. Zach and Bo and Fran and our entire team here. I mean, really, it's all the sports. But I noticed this in particular over the last week or two. Just unbelievable stuff from everybody. PHLY Daily. You can subscribe at allphly.com. That's Rich Hoffman Jr. He gives you the daily sports page, everything that's going on in Philadelphia sports. It's amazing. But if you want to be a diehard, allphly.com, so you get the extras, you get the bonus coverage, you get the free t-shirt, and it's a great value. So I would suggest getting there to allphly.com right now and subscribe. Well, there you go. As we Bob there, I was thinking about this morning because I used to go to, it was a couple year run where I used to do the morning after the selection Sunday, you'd have the Coaches versus Cancer breakfast at the Palestra, which was always a great event. I guess there's not as much juice this year, unfortunately, Bob, with none of the teams being a factor in college basketball. What's up, buddy?
How are you, John? Tyler, congratulations. You guys look good in your green today. Proud of you.
Well, you're wearing green, as I would think you'd be wearing green. Bob, have you been drinking already? Have you had your first beer of the day?
No, not yet. We'll give that a few hours. We'll see what happens. Okay,
yeah, that's probably good. It's just about 8:20. All right, so just a quick answer on that. So I used to love college basketball. The first team that I really loved was the 87-88 Owls. Mark Macon, Howie Evans, Mike Vrieswick, Ramon Rivas, Tim Perry. I love John Chaney. I even loved the Nova teams. And then with Jay recently, maybe it's the nature of college athletics. Maybe it's the nature of college basketball, actually, and the NILs and things like that. But man, like Big Five basketball is just not there anymore, Bob. It's not there anymore.
Yeah, it's such a shame. You know, you're going back to years. I remember I think I was in like 7th grade in 1979 when Penn made this unbelievable run to the Final Four. Lost to Magic Johnson in the semifinals.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't want to go to a 7th grade dance that night because I wanted to stay home to watch the game. The Big Five has been great. And go back 15 years when I was at the Daily News. Selection Sunday was the best. We'd get in at 7 in the morning. We would have thumbnails on every team that was in the tournament that we individually did. You know, it was a great, great time. And, you know, this year, you've lost 3 of the Big Five coaches already, with Fran stepping down, Neptune getting let go, and Stevie Donahue getting let go. You know, it's a rough time to be in the Big Five because when you're mid-majors, the NIL is just really, really tough on you.
It is. Man, there was so much talent coming out of Philly back then, too. Remember that it was Lionel Simmons' senior year where he won the National Player of the Year. You had Hank Gathers before he passed. You had Bo Kimball. I remember a game, Loyola Marymount came into town against LaSalle. It was like 140 to 130 something. And you had a bunch of Philly players
in the
playing.
game. Marymount did, right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
That and Temple was good at the time. Nova has always been a factor in the national picture as well. And now with Jay leaving and Kyle Neptune kind of, struggling to take over for Jay, it was at least you had Nova that you could keep your eyes on if you're a college basketball fan in this city. And it's just tough right now. All right. So Bob, overall big picture, because I think it's a lot of when you're even after winning the Super Bowl, you still like to be involved in the positive headlines of free agency and things like that. And the headlines you saw was, Milton Williams is gone, Josh Sweat is gone, Mekhi Becton's now gone, you traded CJ/GJ. Even if we expected, CJ/GJ wasn't expected, but even if we expected all these moves, which we all certainly did, how do you feel about the all season so far from the Eagles? I still give it a big thumbs up. Howie, I think, is going about this smartly and kind of taking a step back and getting the finances in order. Can't pay everybody, but how do you feel so far?
Well, there's a couple of ways you have to feel. I think there's an awful lot of confidence in the Eagles organization, in Vic Fangio, in what they've lost and what they traded away. I think their confidence that Fangio is going to say, okay, bring me in some D linemen. I'll make it work. Don't worry about it. The linebacker situation, Nakobe Dean, I don't know if he's going to be back or not. So now you're going to have to plug somebody else in there with Bond and make that work also. Is he relying on a Keely Ringo? Is he relying on a Sidney Brown? Young guys that haven't had a lot of playing time, and Brown coming off that injury. But, guys that haven't had a lot of playing time, is it don't worry, Vic will take care of it? Because if you look at it, a lot of guys, Becton included, that you didn't anticipate having the kind of year that they did. And obviously that's on the offensive side of the ball, but not guys coming in having the kind of year they did, a Zach Bond. Maybe that's something you think can carry over because of a Jeff Stoutland, because of a Vic Fangio. Is it too much confidence to put in those guys? I don't know. Like you guys have been talking a lot this morning about the right guard position. Well, you line somebody up, and maybe this is their thinking, but you're lining somebody up with a Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Lane Johnson. I don't know, John. Maybe I'm stupid, but you get me an average NFL offensive line guard that can plug and play in there, and he's around all those guys. I think they could probably have a Becton type of year. So overall, John, yeah, I'm not on the worry train. The Dallas Goedert thing that I know you guys have talked about before. If you can get a pass catching tight end, I'm okay with that. If you're going to save money, that's all right. Because if you can overcome what Dallas Goedert gave you over the last few years with Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, Brown, Smith, that offensive line, if you can't overcome a Dallas Goedert, then that would be more surprising to me than replacing him.
Yeah, I wish they would have drafted his replacement already. Like with Ertz, it was clear what the plan was. Goddard was ready to step in. They don't have a guy like that, so they signed a bunch of guys. Maybe they draft him this year. But back to Becton. If the Eagles wanted Becton back, they could have had him back. They could have done a short-term contract. The money wasn't big. Not that they didn't like him. So they trade for Green, who is a lot like Becton. Disappointment, drafted high, physical tools, and he's not needing to come in and like, wow, our offensive line sucks. You need to come in and solve the offensive line. He's got to come in and fit in next to a future Hall of Famer, next to a guy that's a Pro Bowler and a second-team All-Pro on the same line as Landon Dickerson, one of the best guards in the league, Jordan Mailata, one of the best tackles in the league. This is the place on the line that you can have the revolving door. You get a young player that's inexpensive, maybe like Steen, they'll fight it out in camp. And you know what? One of the two guys is going to be the starter, and they're going to be fine on the offensive line. So let me ask you this. After adding Debo and Tunsil and some other moves, is the biggest competition in the NFC for the Eagles the Washington Commanders? There hasn't been a repeat winner in the NFC East since 2004. Every year we think that's going to change, Bob, and it never does. Are the Commanders the biggest challenger for the Eagles as we head into the next year?
I guess, to me, the way things go, like that was such a surprisingly good year for Washington, right? The expectations were for them to be maybe exciting, but win the way they did, nobody expected that. Young team, now they're picking up some other things. That's good. Usually, and this is just a feeling, John. It's not really backed by much. And you're right. The Samuel pickup, Debo pickup is good on the surface, but is he declining and all that? My like experience in sports, when I see a season like that, no matter the sport, when I see a season like that, usually there's a dip that next season a little bit because of whatever reason it may be. I think they'll contend, but I'll also think that with expectations being probably higher for the Redskins than they should be because of what happened last year, I don't see them being like this. They're competing for the NFC, crown. I'm not saying NFC East. I'm saying NFC altogether.
Right.
I think they're the Eagles' biggest competition in division, but yeah, I still think the Eagles are kind of head and shoulders above.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see what the league does with Jaden Daniels, right? A lot of times you'll see, and I think he's going to be a great quarterback, but defensive coordinators are now going to spend the offseason. Vic Fangio is going to spend the offseason to say, like, oh, all right, how would we stop this guy? And a lot of times they'll come up with something. In the middle of the year, he was injured, but defenses were playing him a little bit differently. And that's another thing with Daniels is, can he stay healthy? Can he play that style of football? And he's not taking off and running all over the place, but still, he's a weapon with his legs. We saw that against the Eagles in the first game they played. So do defensive coordinators, are they able to combat what Jaden Daniels is doing? Another thing with the Eagles, and we talked about it a little bit here, Bob. And
real quick, John, on Washington, real quick.
Yeah.
Everybody talks, and the whole offseason, you're right, has been talking about their offense and what they've added. Let me think, and you and Tyler probably know the answer. How many points did they give up to the Eagles in the NFC Championship?
55, was it?
Yeah, we haven't, not a lot of people are talking about their defense might need to be a little bit changed, right?
Yeah. So who did they add? They added somebody from San Francisco. Yeah, like that's the one thing with the Eagles is that even with losing Moulton Williams and losing Josh Sweat and Nakobe Dean's not injured and Bond, you still have your nuts and bolts of your defense are young players, are young stud players. Now Howie needs to fill in the gaps, right? Like, I don't know if that's going to be a one-year signing of a veteran guy. I don't know if that's going to be a draft pick. I mean, Brandon Graham hasn't retired yet, Bob.
No.
So, like, what does that tell you that he hasn't retired? I know he retore the triceps, according to our own Maniac Malloy reported that first. But, yeah, like, I think Brandon might come back if he hasn't announced his retirement yet. I mean, that's a possibility. He could be a rotational guy. But still, you need help on that defensive line to kind of keep you where you are. But the defense is there. The nuts and bolts are. Yeah.
And, I don't know why. Sidney Brown is the guy that I kind of I'm anxious to see play. Right, John? I think he's this guy where, and this is the real tough thing in sports. From what I've been told and people that I talk to about him, he is a missile. He sees ball, he gets ball, and he wants to make hits. The problem is sometimes it gets him out of place where he's supposed to be. Reeling back aggressiveness, and again, I don't care the sport, reeling back aggressiveness in a player to make him play scheme, but still wanting him to be aggressive is often one of the toughest teaching points in all of sports. I don't care the level of sports you're teaching. And that seems to be the case with Sidney Brown. Keely Ringo's another guy. God, he's like a media favorite, right, John? He's a guy that maybe you can just plug and play and it'll be, whoa, you're not missing a beat when Slay left. So we'll see how that all comes about. And again, a lot of the pressure goes to Vic Fangio.
Yeah, and they also signed Adoree Jackson to a one-year contract as somebody that if Ringo's not ready, this is the guy that started. He may not be the greatest, but he can step in. Let me give you one comp, and then I got to ask you a Sixers question. I see Sidney Brown, and this isn't necessarily a compliment, but I see him as the modern-day Andre Waters. For Eagles fans that maybe aren't old enough to remember this or didn't watch him play, Wes Hopkins was more of a cover safety. He was the free safety who could, by the way, play the run and be a big hitter. He was a great player. Andre Waters was an in-the-box linebacker, but in coverage, he wasn't the best coverage safety. In today's game, you need to be better in coverage. And to me, Sidney Brown looks more like Andre Waters. And that's a compliment to him. I worry about him in pass coverage.
Yeah, is it a case where they have to teach him where to be all the time? And look, you don't want to take away somebody's anticipatory skills. And he seems to he has speed. We know he has speed. We saw that interception. We know the numbers on him about his speed. So is his recovery speed good enough that, yeah, maybe he can be a little out of position and make up for it with his speed? But from what I hear, most of it is technique. Most of it is being where you're supposed to be first and then getting to the ball as quick as you can second. So, again, it's funny. Before I came on and I was listening to you guys, I think two of the biggest factors in what happens this year with the Eagles aren't the young kids, aren't the veterans. It's the old guys, and it's Jeff Stoutland and it's Vic Fangio. And I really do think they're going to play a major part in what happens this season with the Eagles.
All right, Bob, your thoughts on the current state of your team, your town, your 76ers?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't watched them in like 3 weeks.
Me neither. I haven't.
John, look, I love basketball. You know me, John. I'll go to a grammar school game today if it's local and I can get there. I love the game of basketball. I don't like the product the Sixers are putting out on the floor at all. Yeah, there's some pieces that you look at, and I've looked and I've seen, what certain guys are doing, and you're like, okay, is that happening because there's nobody else on the floor? Right now, they're like picking through trash bins, right? Trying to find something that they could use. I don't like watching trash basketball, and I'm not, being mean to anybody, but that's just what it is right now. And I've just covered myself in watching. Luckily, my high school had a great run to the state championship, so I went to all those games. I've been watching college through and through. I can't wait for this tournament. John, I go so up and down on college basketball because of the reasons you talked about earlier with the Big Five. It hits you that it's not what it used to be, and NIL is a big product of it and all of that. But then when you get to the purity of the college basketball game, like I have watching so many games this weekend and last week, I'm back up. I just can't wait for this tournament. I can't wait for 12 o'clock on Thursday. And I think there's about 6-7 elite teams that are going to make this a really fun tournament.
Yeah, I have nothing to say about the 76ers, but I'll say
I was going to say, you like how I switched to college basketball there, John?
Bob, I literally, I don't, like, I pay attention to what happens in the games just so I know if they won or lost, and I know they won last night. I have no interest at all. Daryl Morey, I have such a bad taste in my mouth for this whole thing. Last thing, the job that Rick Pitino has done at St. John's is amazing. It's one of the reasons that you should love college basketball. Because, like, it was a bad look the way that he left Louisville and everything that was going on down there or whatever. He's an amazing all-time coach. And watching St. John's kind of come back to life. I mean, my first memories of college basketball, Chris Mullen, Walter Berry, the Big East teams of Syracuse, St. John's, Villanova, and seeing St. John's and seeing, I know a lot of people that went to St. John's that went to school there when they were good, and just on social media, seeing them as happy as they are right now. Shout out to Rick Pitino, man. What a great job he's done.
I'll tell you, I looked up his age yesterday or this weekend when I was watching his game, 72 years old. And there was a part in the second half. I think they had like an 8-9 point lead. It looked pretty comfortable. And the other team was inbounding the ball side out of bounds. And you could hear Pitino over the sideline microphone. Why is it there? Why is the ball there? It should be up here. And like the way he's so on top of the game and the way he's relating to his players, I'm sure you've seen some clips on X or wherever it may be. Him in the huddle, him in the locker room relating to these players. Do people our age, John, have a bad taste in their mouth about Rick Pitino? No question. But when you show me, take away name, take away face, a coach relating to his players in a locker room and teaching lessons that I think are still valuable in the game of basketball and turning a program like that around, nothing short of miraculous. And I'll tell you what, here's one. I haven't really looked at the bracket that well, John.
Me neither.
I hope to God down the line, the Florida offense, which is absolutely phenomenal, plays a game against that St. John's defense. I think that would be a whale of a college basketball game. Like I said, I haven't looked to see if they match up. Of course, they could in the finals or whatever, but I would love to see that game. Those are two of my favorite teams going into this tournament.
I could talk about Rick Pitino. I admire him so much, and I'm glad that he went to St. John's and was able to kind of get people to remember what a great. Think about how many lives that Rick Pitino has led. He was running the Celtics, the Knicks. Look at the college programs, Providence way back in the day. I mean, God, he has. Villanova needs to make a hire like Rick Pitino.
He was the head coach of former Sixers head coach Brett Brown.
Oh, that's right. Florida and St. John's would meet in the Elite Eight, according to Tyler.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
All
I'd
right.
love to see that matchup, John.
All right, Bob. Listen, you made me late because I love talking to you so much.
Sorry,
I appreciate it.
All right, you guys be good. Thanks for having me.
All right, Bob. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Bob Cooney, Green Beers with Bob, coming up. Oh, I have pictures to share for what the leprechauns did to my house. You That's coming up. Also, my favorite NFL insider slinging more BS out there. Diana Rossini. Hello. That's coming up. Philly with John Marks. Don't go anywhere. I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough. All right. So I'm glad that I'm not having to go to Rothman because I woke up a couple days last week and I had some stiffness. It wasn't my ankle. It was more like, I don't know, like the Achilles or the foot. I'm like, uh-oh, I'm getting kind of old. I hope this isn't something. So I'm like, all right, at what point do I get a hold of Rothman? It cleared itself up. I did my Orange Theory workout this weekend, so I was all good. But like if that started to get worse and it's like, okay, it's not getting better, that's when you need to reach out to Rothman. And this isn't where you're like, oh man, like major pain, major hip pain, major knee pain. Obviously, then you should go to Rothman. What if you're a 7 out of 10, a 6 out of 10? What if your joints are aching? What if your back's out of whack? Instead of just living on ibuprofen or, like whatever, it's not going to get better. It can get better with Rothman. Rothman Orthopedics, they got you, all right? Each of their doctor is laser focused on their specialty, hip, knee, spine, you name it. They have a team for each body part, and they're right in your backyard. That's right, 30-plus convenient offices, urgent cares, and walk-in centers right in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. They have the full spectrum of orthopedic care. From diagnosis to discharge, they provide their patients with every service and procedure necessary. X-rays, bracing, MRIs, PT, and more. I did physical therapy for 6 weeks after being diagnosed with a frozen shoulder at Rothman, right up there in Limerick. And I waited over a year with this freaking shoulder bothering me, and bam, in 6 weeks, it was better. And listen, hip replacement, knee replacement, the experts in the industry, they do groundbreaking research, clinical trials. They are the best. Rothman Orthopedics, specializing in orthopedics and you. Visit rothmanortho.com/PHLY, rothmanortho.com/PHLY to learn more, to make an appointment today. Hoo-ah! All right. GLAT Hair Restoration. I don't know if people know this, but like I know, for instance, I had somebody in my family that was like, oh, can you, like thinking about, can you set me up with GLAT or whatever? And they had a consultation with GLAT. But before we had the consultation, I was talking about turkey. No, not turkey and cheese hoagie or turkey that you put in the oven. The country turkey. Because you see a lot of people online talking about going over there for a hair restoration procedure. All right? Like, listen, you want to save a little bit of bread and go over to Turkey for that, knock yourself out, all right? I would not recommend that, all right? The country's premier hair restoration destination in the United States is right here. There's no need to travel out of the country when you have the best right here in your backyard. Over 30 years, the team at GLAT Hair has been restoring hair with cutting-edge treatments like TED, PRP, and more. Nutrafol, which is, I talk about hair restoration. Then we talk about maintenance, right? Nutrafol is a product out there right now that is really, really popular, and for good reason. It encourages hair growth. It slows down the hair loss process. Like, if you could keep your current hair and not lose any more hair, would you be happy with your hair? If the answer is yes, then you should be contacting GLAT Hair right now. If you need restoration, get restoration. Then you stop it from receding from there. Nutrafol is great for that. Follow-ups, you look at the before and afters that I take, and it's like, wow, it looks the same that it did last year. That's a win. If your hair looks the same year to year, you're winning. GLATHairMM.com. That's the website. Contact their hair team at 610-980-4000. All stages of hair loss. They'll pinpoint the best course of treatment. It's not just about restoration. It's about innovation. 610-980-4000 or GLATHairMM.com. Hoo-ah. There we go. All right. So can you put up the video of Burrow again? Tyler Zulli, because it made me think of this. It's well documented that the studio is great. I think the studio looks great in the back. I don't like the setup where I have to have the laptop on my balls, on my lap. I don't like it.
You understand
like
that.
it
I mean,
doesn't.
not really, kind
So
of.
so see
You
how
don't
they're
think that it
sitting.
exists.
Way more than we.
All right, so that's Big Cat, that's
Definitely
PFT
some
commenter,
teams
and that's
seem
Joe
to make
Burrow.
it
You can stop it. See how they're sitting? So they're in a chair, and all three of them. So it's a setup similar to this, because Anthony in Anthony's studio, he has the desk. All right, so like him in Violations, Greg, they have the desk. When Zach and Bo do their show, they have the desk, so they're sitting next to each other. We have a studio in here similar. You can get it. You can take it away. So I was watching the video last night, and I'm like, I always feel so awkward sitting here, and so I'm like, all right, they're not sitting like. Sometimes I put my foot up on the thing, so I'm like, all right, well, should I fold my leg? But then it hits here, so it's like, should I cross my other leg? So this is what Burrow and PFT commenter are doing, and then Big Cat's like this, which is not comfortable on the sack for me. So Tyler, and I think part of the problem is with these seats, it's too deep. So I feel like I'm not a big guy, so I feel like I'm slumped over. If I had a more upright seat where I could be sitting like this and talking, well, I just feel like I'm almost like ready to go to sleep when I sit in this chair.
Yeah, it's a lounge chair. It's comfortable. I mean, they are comfortable seats, but like I have a computer seat, like a computer chair with a back, and so like you can see it kind of here, right? It's got a back, right? So I'm upright to the camera. You can't see it, right? Because you can only see like here up. My legs are crossed currently, right? I'm sitting like with one leg on top of the other, right? Like in a comfortable, normal, like how you would sit with your legs crossed position, right? In your seat, you sink so low in that chair, everything becomes uncomfortable.
Right. And like those guys don't need, like I have to do.
You're gonna have the laptop on the lap.
But like, and because like they're doing an interview, so like their notes are in their head. Like we have ad reads, we have, you know what I mean? Like I need to have something in front.
Yeah, of course.
And like Anthony, if I had the desk, I don't even know if I need the laptop. I could have stuff in front of me that I could read. But regardless, I can't have, like, do I want papers here? Do I want to be holding something up? I mean, I don't know. But anyway, so I thought like it does look better with the legs crossed. All right. So could I get used to doing it? Because I'm not a flexible person. I'm not. Could I get used to doing this? Does this look normal? I'm wearing green shoes today.
Those Orange Theory classes going to help you out?
It doesn't really help with flexibility. When I was doing physical therapy at Rothman, I actually got really, like, they stretch you out really good. They have these stretch labs that you can go to where they really, really stretch you out, stretch therapy, which is good, but it's just like, no. But anyway, so maybe I should just practice doing this. It's not comfortable. My hamstrings are tight. All right. So someone says yoga in there. Yeah. All right. Good luck doing yoga. I am doing Kegel exercises.
Yoga is really, really difficult. If you are a non-flexible person. Like you said, if your hamstrings are tight or your quads or whatever.
It's rigorous, man.
Yoga becomes difficult.
A legit workout. Yeah, I could see you doing Pilates.
I am not a flexible person.
No,
I have not done anything.
You're a baseball player. You don't need to be.
Well, I haven't done anything like nimble since I stopped playing sports. Like if I'm in the gym now, most of the time, as you can tell by my incredible strength, most of the time I'm lifting.
You got the gallon of water you're walking around with.
Yeah, with the tank top with the spaghetti straps. Oh yeah, you can tell.
Seen you.
But no, if I'm in the gym, most of the time I'm lifting, and so lifting's great for you. But I don't do a lot of like plyo type stuff.
Right.
So
yeah, no, the Kegels. I actually lied and said that I'm doing it, but I've Googled it to look at the exercises to see what I need to do. You know what Kegels is good for? It's good for urinary incontinence and for improved sexual function. And I need it more for the urinary incontinence. Because right now, as I sit here with minimum 9 minutes to go in the show, I really got to go to the bathroom, man. I have an old lady's bladder. I do. And a lot of times when I'm at the urinal and I'm done and I give the shake and I'm like, all right, I'm done, I'll pivot to go backwards to the sink to wash my hands. And it's like I just like peed in my underwear like a shot glass. What happens when you get old, man? You need to strengthen those pelvic floor muscles. And this has been a real problem. Seriously, when I look at the packs of Depends, when the men's Depends when I go to the grocery store and the guys look so happy? Now I know why. Because they're not peeing in their shorts. Anyway, all right. So so just so people know, all right, Tyler, I don't know if it was like this with you growing up, but for some reason, since I started having children, that naughty leprechaun keeps coming to my house every year. And we set leprechaun traps. We make leprechaun traps. The kids love making the leprechaun traps. And we never seem to be able to catch him. But he still comes to the house. We're trying to figure out how he gets in the door because we have an alarm and everything else. But he manages to get in the house and he creates havoc. All right. So here's what my house looked like this morning. All right. So you can't see the bottom if you're listening to the audio podcast. They saran wrap my kid's shoes, and you can see the leprechaun is above it right there. And then there's a box of Lucky Charms, and then there's lollipops underneath it. That was a part of a scavenger hunt that was created by the leprechauns. And then there's another thing. Yeah, and this is the downstairs bathroom. I did not allow it upstairs. So the toilet has been dyed green. There is silly string all over the mirror. There's paint in the sink with the shamrock, the 4-leaf clover. There's also silly string that's also in other places in the house. So there you go. That naughty leprechaun. And I received word this morning, Tyler did not catch him again. He fell into the trap, but he was able to cut himself out of the tape and then get away.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, right? If the leprechaun has the ability to do everything that it did, I assume that was last night when y'all were asleep.
Yeah, right? I woke up this morning.
Right, comes into the house and plays pranks and stuff.
Correct.
I would imagine it's pretty easy to get out of the trap, right? So you asked me, you were saying, was this a thing when we were growing up? We used to build like Lego leprechaun traps. And you would put them on the green base that Lego has.
Yeah,
you would have the green base, and then you would build the trap out of Legos. And, you would have like a swing door or something like that. So, yeah, we used to do that. We never had the pranks. The pranks must be a new thing amongst the leprechauns.
So we've asked the leprechaun and left them a note to say, hey, because before we destroyed their playroom and then, we have to clean that up. So I was like, hey, let's just take it easy.
Okay.
A couple of pranks. We don't need to get crazy because then dad has to clean them up. All right. So, yeah, so that's that. I didn't even give you the trap that they made. It was a top hat. And there was candy on top of the top hat, but they cut a hole in the top hat. So when the leprechaun went to grab the candy, they fell through.
Smart.
And then couldn't get out. And then somehow there was tape at the bottom. So, yeah, they did a great job with the trap. They did. Yeah. By the way, shout out to the Upmoreland Golden Bears. I meant to get to it when Bob was talking about his high school. But my alma mater has made it to the semis of the state playoffs. They'd never even won a state game before. And my buddy Ari Bluestein, who does play-by-play with the Sports Fan Base Network, they have the games on, a lot of high school games. He does a great job with it. He texted me the other night. He's like, look, they won again. It's like, yep. They're in states now, semis in states. Shout out to the Golden Bears and all those fellas over there. All right, so Diana Rossini, and I'm not going to have a lot of time to talk about this because time is short. But, I mean, honestly, the Aaron Rodgers is really the last big name that's going to, once he signs with the Steelers, because he's going to sign with the Steelers, then Russell Wilson's probably going to go to the Giants, and then the other quarterbacks that are available, then the dominoes are going to fall, right? Backup is a good place or whatever. But Aaron Rodgers wants to be a Viking. And it doesn't seem like the Vikings are interested in Aaron Rodgers, and they just want to go with J.J. McCarthy. They'll sign a veteran backup or whatever. And we can debate that. I think the best story is Aaron Rodgers going to the Vikings, but it's probably the best football move for the Vikings not to do that. Put him in Pittsburgh or whatever. But this whole thing is being made of, and this just isn't Diana Rossini because she's actually doing none of the reporting on this. It's Michael Silver and a guy named Alec Lewis of The Athletic. So you have the three. And you have three people reporting that Rodgers has multiple teams holding out for his decision, and he wants to be a Viking. That's what he's hoping for. They needed three freaking NFL insiders or reporters to report what anybody else that follows the league knows. Of course you want to go to the Vikings. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I want to go to the Vikings. They're a better team. They have better weapons on offense. And I like DK Metcalf. I'd rather go to the Vikings. They won 14 games last year. They have an offensive head coach. They play inside, indoors. It's back to the NFC Central, the NFC North. He can go after the Packers. He can be mad at the Packers going up there. It's a much better destination. The Steelers aren't bad. And then there's the Giants. And so Rossini came out, and the three came out and said, oh, well, if the Vikings aren't interested, he may consider retirement. Aaron Rodgers is not retiring from the NFL. That is the biggest bunch of bull bleep out there. I think he wants to play 2 more years. He may not be able to play 2 more years. Aaron Rodgers is not done playing football. And as long as he's going to have a team that's willing to pay him $30 million a year or whatever he's going to get more guaranteed money than that, he's going to play. If it's the Giants, how about this? If the Giants are the only team that's interested in him, Aaron Rodgers will play for the Giants. He's not going to retire. Again, 3 NFL insiders being used as pawns for this. Mike Silver goes back to Aaron Rodgers' college days because they're both from the Bay Area, and Mike Silver developed a relationship for Aaron Rodgers. He's being fed this information. They have, I guess, a reporter probably for the team, for one of the teams. And then you have Rossini, who is the front person to put this out there. You need 3 reporters to report that Aaron Rodgers wants to play for the Vikings and the Steelers are interested in him and the Giants are interested in him. This is common knowledge. This is common knowledge. She even said, Diane Rossini said that she believes the Vikings are leaning towards Aaron Rodgers. That was on Friday on Pittsburgh radio. She's just making stuff up. She doesn't really know. She's just guessing, and her guesses are always wrong. He's not retiring. He's going to play for the Steelers, and that's that. All right, so congratulations, NFL insiders. 3 of them. Great reporting on this. Being used for a pawn for Aaron Rodgers so you can get clicks, so you can get likes and retweets and things like that. And so Diane Rossini, who now doesn't actually do reporting unless she's given stuff, now just is the front person to tweet it out and go on whatever and discuss it. Shout out to everybody that's watching right now on TV. Go over to allphly.com to watch the rest of the program. Tyler Zuli, do you have an opinion on this? Because I could talk about Aaron. I think Aaron Rodgers being in the NFL next year is great. He's not retiring, and he's going to the Steelers. Your thoughts?
I think that Aaron Rodgers is definitively going to play again next season. I don't know where. I'm not ready to say I think it's definitively the Steelers just because I don't know how. I'm sure they're going to have interest. I would imagine they're going to have interest. They need a quarterback. There's no question about it.
They've offered him a contract, and Jerry Dubach, who is the longtime columnist out there, says that they've more or less agreed on terms.
Sure.
They're waiting on Rodgers. Because Rodgers is waiting on the Vikings to give them a definitive no.
Here's the problem that I have with this. Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever play the game. Aaron Rodgers isn't particularly great anymore. He's still good, I think, in spots. I think
league average at best.
There's still times where I see Aaron Rodgers and I go, okay, that's a classic Aaron Rodgers throw. But there's too many times last year with the Jets where I went, oh, wow, this is bad. And he still ended up throwing, what did he throw for, like 3,600 yards or something like that? I mean, statistically, it was an okay year. But Aaron Rodgers doesn't hold this power anymore. 7 years ago, Aaron Rodgers hit the free agent market. He could have said, I want to play for this team and this team only, and they would have done what they could do to make it work because that's how good he was. Aaron Rodgers doesn't have this holding capability anymore to hold a team hostage like this. And if I were the Steelers, I understand you need a quarterback because you're not going to go back to Russ. Justin Fields is signed with New York, so your options are pretty limited, and you're far down in the draft board for a quarterback this year. If I were the Steelers, I'd be like, dude, you got to give us an answer. We're not messing around with this anymore. We need to figure something out. We've already lost out on Darnold. We've already lost out on the Geno sweepstakes to trade for him. We've allowed Justin Fields to walk. It doesn't seem like Russell Wilson is an option.
Well, and you know what? If Rodgers doesn't come back,
it probably will be him, right? Or could be him. They need to be able to make a decision. I think at this point, Aaron Rodgers holding this team hostage. He doesn't have the merit to do that anymore.
Well, you know what? You would hope, Tyler, you would hope that this week he makes his decision.
I think if you're a Steelers fan, you'd have to, right?
Well, I mean, what the Steelers have to do is say, hey, listen, because here's what Rodgers is doing right now. He's hoping that Minnesota says, because Minnesota may not have considered this before, but then you get the idea in their heads. Now the GM and the coach is talking and saying, all right, let's play this out. So we give McCarthy another year. He gets healthy. Rodgers comes in. who knows? Maybe it's more of the Rodgers we saw a couple years ago than the Rodgers we saw last year. The problem is Kevin O'Connell is the one that's really responsible for this decision, and he says, "Nah, I don't need Rodgers up here. I saw what he looked like. It's time to go with JJ McCarthy. We drafted him last year." So Rodgers, when he gets the no from Minnesota, if that's indeed what happens, now he's going to continue to put his thumb on the scale, and he's going to say to the Steelers, "Listen, the Giants are interested. I might retire," because he's going to try to get a couple more $1 million out of the Steelers. And then it's going to also get him. He'll be in the spotlight. Everybody will be talking about him. He gets what he wants. And then he signs with the Steelers.
The Steelers are in a weird spot in the draft too, right? Because they're picking 21st, which means that Sanders and Ward are definitively going to be off the board. There's a chance that even does Jackson Dart go in the first round still? Does Milroe go late? The problem is they're at 21, which I think is probably too early to take those guys unless they really, really like one of them. They don't have a second-round pick. They just traded it for DK Metcalf. So they pick at 21, and then they don't pick again until
That's a great point.
83. Now, the mock draft I'm looking at has them taking Quinn Ewers at 83, but now you're really going down the quarterback depth to take a guy in the third round. You're still going to need a vet. Quinn Ewers can't start right away.
No,
at least I don't think.
Rodgers in Pittsburgh is intriguing. I don't believe it's a good spot because they don't have a better option. But I mean, could they? Great defense and everything, just like Gels. Tomlin and Rodgers have been flirting for years. They've admired each other on different teams for years. And then he comes to Pittsburgh, he's probably going to piss him off because Rodgers is definitely Aaron Rodgers. But I mean, I think it's a good story for the NFL. I'd like to see him go to Minnesota because I think it's a better story. But him in Pittsburgh's a good story. If he goes to the Giants, pathetic. That's a guy he is not ready to retire. The fact that he's willing even to consider going to the Giants. And how about this? How pathetic are the Giants that they're literally waiting on Aaron Rodgers that wants nothing to do to them, and they're offering him the most money and the best contract? And you know when he'll go to the Giants? If he's got no better option.
Yeah, I mean, the Giants are in on him. They were seemingly in on the Stafford conversation for a while. They
were.
They are desperate for a quarterback.
Russ.
It wouldn't shock me, right? Or you end up with you're starting Marcus Mariota for a season. Yep. And you wait out the quarterback thing.
Well, you are. There's not even a placeholder or a backup.
Yeah.
Well, then they should. I mean, if there's a quarterback there, they should draft them.
Well, so that's the conversation is they really kind of screwed themselves when they won a game late in the season because now I think Ward and Sanders are gone. Now this is where the conversation goes are you really going to take Jackson Dart at, what are they picking, 4 or 5 or something like that? No. Are you going to take Will Howard, right? These guys aren't first-round picks, and they're definitely not top 10 picks. So they're in a really bad – the Giants are in a really bad spot.
Yes, they are. They just paid Darius Slayton almost as much guarantee money as Saquon Barkley got last year.
Oh, excuse me. The Giants picked 3rd.
Yeah, no, but they don't pick 2.
So unless – one of Tennessee or Cleveland doesn't take a quarterback, which I think they're going to.
They're taking quarterbacks. I didn't believe this. These insiders do this every year where they're like, no, I'm like Tennessee. I don't think they're taking a quarterback. They're taking a quarterback. I think they'd be stupid to pass on a quarterback. Yeah, if they win 6 games this year, now they're not picking top 5. All right, shout out to everybody watching live on YouTube. Appreciate y'all. Every morning, 8 to 9, Philly with John Marks. Get involved in the live chat. Bam! We have a fun show every day. But if you can't watch live, doesn't matter. You can watch whenever you want to. Just click and subscribe on our YouTube, comment, etc. Audio-only podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, Philly with John Marks. Just search, subscribe, rate and review 5 stars. You can listen to us if you can't watch us, which is perfectly fine as well. And by the way, if you want to, Tyler, you know what was on Friday? Because we always say hey, click away from TV and go to YouTube to watch the rest of it. So on Friday at 8:16, it went from an Eagles show to your Phillies podcast.
Love that.
And on Roku.
Love that.
Yeah, no, I'm it was the one where you were showing the grips of the balls or whatever. I saw the graphic that was up there. It was good, but I'm always saying to watch on Roku TV, which is what I was watching on, but we weren't live. So anyway.
Find us 24/7. It's the beauty of this.
So Xfinity, if you still have Xfinity, which I do, right into the remote, PHLY, you get all of our programming, including Anthony Gargano is live right now. We're back tomorrow at 8 a.m. See you.
We all silly like the mayor.